Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here for this federal and provincial early learning and childcare update. My name is Jason Brown. I'm the President and CEO of the YMCA of Newfoundland and Labrador. Along with our board chair, Todd Stanley, and members of our senior team, I welcome all of you here today. It's my great pleasure to be your MC. Premier and Minister Osborne, welcome back to the YMCA. Minister Gould, welcome to the province. We're happy to have you here. Also joining us, members of Parliament Joanne Thompson and Ken MacDonald, welcome. Provincial Minister Davis, Minister Studley, Minister Abbott, and Minister Hogan. MHA Lucy Stoyles, Joanne Morris of the Early Childhood Educators Human Resource Council, welcome. I also want to welcome a few of our guests from the early learning and childcare sector. Valerie Collins, the coordinator with Family and Childcare Connections, Liz Kidd from College of the North Atlantic, Craig Tucker from Kean College, Lisa Lovelady from Academy Canada. Newfoundland and Labrador YMCAs are an eager partner with both levels of government in helping them achieve their ambitious early learning and childcare action plan. Across Canada and in Newfoundland and Labrador, the YMCA is the largest not-for-profit provider of childcare. YMCAs now have an opportunity to significantly expand childcare operations in this province. The YMCA has been part of life in Newfoundland and Labrador since 1854. As part of our program mix, YMCAs operate regulated childcare centres across the province, and we are proud to be part of the government's operating grant program for $15 a day and soon $10 a day childcare. We recently opened our first regulated childcare centre in Labrador at the new Central Labrador YMCA in Happy Valley Goose Bay. We are actively pursuing new opportunities on the Avalon Peninsula, in Bonavista, on Fogo Island, in Bay St. George, and in Labrador. We see ourselves as part of a solution to the current shortage of early childhood educators, and we believe in strengthening the profession. We are looking forward to opportunities in pre-kindergarten as well. The government investments in childcare and early learning are life-changing for Newfoundland and Labrador families. Now, I'd like to invite the Honourable Andrew Furey, Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, to say a few words. Premier.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's certainly a pleasure to be here in person and to see a gym that's actually active after all this time of COVID-19. It is truly a good sign of things to come, to see not only the physical activity but the activity in the childcare centers throughout. This is an incredible building, one that you should be proud of. I still consider it the new Y, having used to working out at the old Y. And it's a great step up, and it's really important for people of the St. John's region for sure. We incredibly appreciate the YMCA's regulated childcare spaces in this province as we continue to make quality childcare more affordable for families across all of Newfoundland and Labrador. It was an immediate priority for our government when we started, and one that we continue to improve on. Minister Gould, welcome to Newfoundland and Labrador. The weather is just for you. It's always like this in winter, of course. Minister Osborne, it's a bit cooler here than the last time we were talking about childcare at the CNA, so I don't think there's any need for fans here. But we're so happy that you could join us today here and recognize the commitment, that the federal government has made in ensuring that we are investing not just in the province, the country, beyond that, the future, in investing in our children. So thank you very much on behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Ms. Morris, I'm so glad you could join us and bring us perspective from an early child care educator's perspective. It's obviously incredibly important as we continue this important conversation for the future of the province. I think the pandemic has really given us, as a parent, certainly, a lot to think about, and a newfound appreciation when it comes to the hard work that early childhood educators and frankly all teachers across our province do. So thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Minister Osborne and his department for their tireless work on this file as we continue to push to meet the growing demand of spaces, affordable childcare spaces for the people of our province. To my colleagues, Minister Davis, Studley, Hogan, Abbott, MHA Stoyles, And of course, Joanne, thanks for joining us here today. It's so nice to see you at this announcement. But I think we can all agree collectively that we are here today because we share a collective passion for a brighter future for Newfoundland and Labrador. And quality, affordable childcare is an important piece of that vision. That's why I made it a focus of my campaign when I was running to become Premier, leading the way with $25 a day childcare within just a few weeks of taking over in government. Might be hard to believe right now, but that wasn't even 2 years ago. And at that time, families were still paying $45 a day. Well, in January of 2021, we introduced $25 a day, and I said it was a first step, and I meant it. And today is an example of how there are more steps to come. And now with the federal government's support and contribution, we not only reached our $25 a day goal, we exceeded it with $15 a day this past January. And we will be at $10 a day next January, ahead of schedule, leading the country. My friends, those are quite a few big steps in just a short period of time, but it shows you the commitment of your government to this important initiative. I have said over and over again that quality, affordable childcare in Newfoundland and Labrador is important for our families, for our economy, and for the future of our province. So when the federal government approached us with the opportunity to build on the progress we had already made, of course we jumped at it. We shared the same vision of enhancing and creating more capacity within the space that we were already pioneering. My friends, the evidence is clear. Affordable childcare helps more women stay, in particular, in the workforce. It makes life more affordable for families in our province. And it is one of the key measures our government has taken to help weather the storm of the increasing cost of living. Affordable childcare and rate mitigation, guaranteeing that power rates don't double, are two significant accomplishments thus far that I'm proud our government has delivered with respect to cost of living for all of Newfoundland and Labrador. Our government has heard the cries and the fears of high prices, and we have delivered on these two important items, childcare and rate mitigation. And there will be more, as we understand world affairs and supply chain has caused significant pressures to everyone in our province. But affordable childcare is just the start of transforming what we are truly envisioning as a different childcare space for Newfoundland and Labrador. We recognize that with the significant progress that we had made already on affordability, we need to shift our gaze and direct our focus towards towards creating more spaces and attracting more early childhood educators in the sector. We know, and we've heard, and we've listened and understand that spaces are an issue. We've heard it loud and clear from the sector and from families alike. And we will do more to address that capacity issue. We have set ambitious goals, and I want to reiterate them here so everyone understands them. By 2025, 2026, we will have created approximately 5,800 new spaces, nearly 6,000 new regulated childcare spaces in this province. We'll be adding more spaces each and every year until then. We're also working towards higher wages for early childhood educators, and we are increasing funding, like expanding the Family Child Care Capacity Grant from the current limit of $7,500 to $15,000. Now, on top of that, we are introducing a pre-kindergarten pilot program that will launch this September, which will create more regulated childcare spaces. Of course, all of this won't happen overnight, and we all wish we could snap our fingers and make it happen instantaneously, but it can't. But I can tell you there is a hard-working team led by Minister Osborne and his colleagues to ensure that we are making rapid progress on this file. I have full confidence in him and his team will not relent until this is accomplished. Minister Osborne himself will provide an update on some of the key actions we're taking this year to build on these goals. Now, I will conclude with this. Nobody in Newfoundland and Labrador should ever feel that childcare is a barrier to their personal or professional goals. And when that person wins, as a province, we all win. We all get stronger. We all get better. So it's not just an investment in that person or that child. This is indeed an investment in a future vision for Newfoundland and Labrador. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Premier. I would now like to invite the Honourable Karina Gould, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development with the Government of Canada, to say a few words. Minister.
Thank you very much, Jason, and thank you so much for welcoming us here to the YMCA. It really is fantastic to be here. It's great to be here with the kids playing in the background, because I think, as Premier Furey was mentioning, this really is about them. And it's about their future and the future for this province. And Premier Furey, thank you so much for welcoming me here back to Newfoundland. I'm very delighted to be here. This is my first time coming in the winter, but I have to say, it doesn't appear that bad, right? Yeah. So, anyways, I'm from the Banana Belt in Canada, so so this is kind of what it's normally like for us in winter. Anyways, it is a real privilege to be here with Premier Furey, Minister Osborne, and of course my dear colleague, the Member of Parliament, Joanne Thompson, for this important announcement. I want to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral territory and unceded homeland of the Beothuk, and that the island of Newfoundland is the ancestral unceded homeland of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk. As many of you here today probably already knew, working and parenting at the same time is pretty hard. The realities of the pandemic have made this even more clear. Many parents had to stay home and balance lockdowns, homeschooling with their own work responsibilities. C'est pourquoi notre engagement à bâtir un système pan-canadien d'apprentissage et de garde des jeunes enfants compte plus que jamais. L'accès à des services de garde d'enfants inclusifs, abordables et d'autres qualités est une nécessité pour les familles à travers notre pays. And last summer, our two governments signed a historic childcare agreement through which the Government of Canada is investing more than $306 million over 5 years to significantly improve early learning and childcare for families across Newfoundland and Labrador. Since then, we have been working hard to implement the agreement. To make childcare more affordable, we committed to reducing fees for licensed childcare spaces. And today's announcement that parent fees for licensed childcare have been reduced to $15 a day is a significant step. And I too want to join in congratulations and thank you to Minister Osborne and his team for making this a reality. It will result in families in Newfoundland and Labrador saving thousands of dollars annually per child. With this announcement, the province has exceeded our shared goal of reducing 2019 average parent fees by 50% by the end of 2022. Thousands of parents across the province will have more money in their pocket to spend on other needs and priorities, whether that is groceries, clothes, sports, or music lessons that might not have been possible before. Nous allons aussi continuer à travailler pour atteindre l'objectif de $10 par jour en moyenne dans un établissement de garde d'enfants réglementé à Terre-Neuve et Labrador d'ici l'an prochain, 2 ans complètes avant la date prévue. So 2 years ahead of schedule, Newfoundland and Labrador are working to implement $10 a day daycare. Je tiens à féliciter le Premier ministre et son gouvernement d'avoir accéléré la mise en œuvre de ces réductions. I really want to congratulate and share my appreciation to the Premier and his government for working so hard to achieve this right here in this province. I am also delighted that the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador will be launching a pre-kindergarten pilot program as the first step in creating approximately 3,100 new regulated spaces for 4-year-olds by 2025-26. Ces nouvelles places changera la donne pour les familles de la province, et il y a encore d'autres bonnes nouvelles. Early childhood educators, as we all know, are at the heart of our early learning and childcare system. We won't have quality early learning and childcare. We won't have more spaces without our amazing ECEs. And so I want to thank our incredible early childhood educators for all they do every day. And that is why I am also pleased that the province is moving forward with developing a wage grid. It will help to better reflect the valuable work of these dedicated educators and complement your efforts to attract, retain, and support a highly engaged workforce. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui est un excellent exemple de ce qui peut être accompli lorsqu'on partage une vision commune et un engagement à améliorer la vie des Canadiens. Today's announcement is a great example of what we can do when we work together. And the governments of Canada and Newfoundland are collaborating and working together in partnership to do this. As the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and as a mom of a child in daycare myself, I am incredibly proud of the progress we are making to build a high-quality, affordable, flexible, and inclusive early learning and childcare system across Canada. And we know, as the Premier said, that affordable, quality, inclusive, accessible childcare for all Canadians is a win for our kids, it's a win for families, especially for women, and it's a win for the economy in general. And as Newfoundland and Labrador and Canada writ large are looking to rebuild post-pandemic, this is so crucial for our economic recovery. So I look forward to continuing to work with the Premier and Minister Osborne to make life easier, more affordable for families in Newfoundland and Labrador, and give children the best possible start in life. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you, Minister Gould. I would now like to ask the Honourable Tom Osborne, Minister of Education for the province, to say a few words. Minister.
Well, thank you, Jason, and thank you, Premier and Minister Gould, for your comments. Today, I want to provide an update on some of the actions that we are taking to increase regulated early learning and childcare spaces and to attract more people to work in the sector. And while the sector has traditionally been called early learning and childcare or daycare are really misnomers. So I am going personally to start calling it the early learning sector because these professionals are providing early learning to our children. Going forward, in the early learning sector, one of the ways that we can create spaces is through the pre-kindergarten early learning program. And with the Premier's guidance, by September of this year, we will launch a pre-K pilot program for 4-year-olds with locations throughout the province. This pilot will include hundreds of new spaces this year, and by 2025-26 will be approximately 3,100 spaces in pre-K, which will be part of our early learning system. We anticipate that these freed up spaces in the system will be easily filled based on the fact that there's currently a wait list in many areas of the province. And as early learning becomes more affordable and we move to $10 a day, demand will certainly continue to increase. We will be prioritizing the hiring of ECEs with at least a Level 3 certification, including former ECEs with Level 3 who return to the sector. In recognition of the current staffing levels in the sector, while our priority will be given to Level 3 ECEs, we will also accept applications from retired primary and elementary educators with primary experience to fill positions where we cannot fill them with Level 3 or higher ECEs. Today, I am putting a call out to all of those who are interested in working in our pilot program to contact the Department of Education to join the contact list for the application process. Another way that we will create spaces is by providing financial support to those looking to create new operations, to support the family home-based providers, to cover startup costs for regulated services. Today, I can announce that we are expanding the Family Child Care Capacity Grant. We need to change the name of that as well, from the current limit of $7,500 to $15,000. Further, not-for-profit groups and municipalities who create the new regulated early learning services will have access to increased funding under the existing Child Care Capacity Grant from the current $5,000 to $7,000 for every new space created, an increase of $2,000 per space. We recognize that to grow the sector, we also need to attract and retain more early childhood educators. And over the years, we've seen far too many leave the sector because the wages did not accurately reflect the important work they do. We have also heard from ECEs who say that because they currently receive their pay from multiple sources, it has posed challenges with getting loans or mortgages. As a result, we are also making a change so that effective January 1st, the operating grant program will incorporate the current income supplement as part of the wages paid to ECEs. Furthermore, the wage grid process, which is underway, we anticipate will result in wage increases for many ECEs come January 1st. With all of these changes combined, for example, we anticipate wage levels for level 2 ECEs should be in the range of $25 to $26 an hour. And for level 3s, including pre-K, will be higher again. We hope that this will not only bring people into the sector, but will also bring people back to the sector who left because of inadequate wages. We are also working with our educational partners to train more ECEs. We are providing funding to the College of the North Atlantic, Kean College, and Academy Canada to further expand the number of seats they can offer in early learning programs. And these agreements will see an increase of approximately 700 seats between this year and next. In addition to enhanced wages, we are also enhancing bursaries for ECE students. And at this time, I would like to acknowledge Liz Kidd from the College of the North Atlantic because we asked and she delivered. We are starting a new Earn While You Learn program at the College of the North Atlantic so that individuals can split their time between the classroom and working part-time in regulated early learning. This program will make more qualified staff available to services earlier in their training. We recognize that the need for a regular consultation with the sector if we are going to be successful in meeting our goals of the action plan. So in February, we created the Early Learning Advisory Committee, whose role is to advise myself and my department as we roll out the action plan, and we will invite other stakeholders to this council in the coming weeks. We are also providing funding to family and childcare connections to increase the number of home-based operations on the Avalon and in the Western region, as well as to expand into Central and Labrador. We will be providing funding to ASINAL so that they can support us in achieving the professional learning and development targets outlined in the Federal Provincial Agreement. I'm going to borrow a quote from the Premier when we went to $25 a day. This is just the start. We will continue the expansion of the sector. In closing, I want to thank Premier Fiore for his continued leadership. I want to thank Minister Gould for her continued commitment to Newfoundland and Labrador's ambitious plan. and to the sector for your dedication in working with us to build a bigger, better, stronger early learning sector for Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Osborne. I would now like to ask MP Joanne Thompson to say a few words.
Hello, and thank you. What a beautiful day, and welcome to everyone. And to echo Premier Fury, your words, just sitting there listening to my colleagues speak, it is so nice to hear noise. It's so lovely to see people come and go, and of course the children enjoying the space. It's really quite wonderful and very significant for this announcement. It's always a pleasure to be part of good news for our province, and there are some amazing things happening in Newfoundland and Labrador. Calling the last 2 years challenging feels like an understatement, but what this pandemic has done is shine a light on understanding social problems and accelerating change and action. This announcement and commitment to affordable, inclusive, and high-quality childcare is an example of that, and particularly timely just a day after International Women's Day. We know that childcare and the effects of the pandemic have disproportionately affected women as caregivers and as workers. This funding of $347 million will go a long way to address this inequality and demonstrates our provincial-federal partnership and commitment to women, parents, and families. $10 a day daycare keeps more money in families' pockets, and it allows women and parents to get back to the workforce. Simply put, the cost of childcare should not be the deciding factor of how a family chooses to raise their children. This is also an example of our government's ability to get things done, in partnership with the provinces and in record time. When we work together, we can make an impact, and we can do it with the sense of urgency that it deserves. As we recover from this pandemic, this funding will allow parents, especially women, to participate in the workforce to their fullest capacity and inject our economy with the growth and prosperity that we need. To speak more about why we are here today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Joanne Morris of the Early Childhood Educators Human Resource Council. Thank you.
Hello, Premier Fury, Minister Gould, Minister Osborne, Joanne, other delegates and officials of the government and the community that are here today. I'm so pleased to have been invited today to speak from, I guess, a couple of perspectives, but from the early childhood education sector. I am a member of the Minister's ELCC Advisory Committee, and that's because I chair the Early Childhood Educators Human Resource Council. Other sector organizations that are part of the advisory committee include the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Newfoundland and Labrador, and also Family and Childcare Connections. As our work unfolds, we're very new at this, and so as our work unfolds, we intend to reach out quite broadly into the sector to get input from licensees, from frontline early childhood educators, from content experts, and from community people who are interested, to have input on the announcements that have been made today, and also to help identify new initiatives that will benefit the sector in time to come. As I mentioned, we are quite new at this, and our committee is just getting used to working with the minister and the departmental staff. But I can say that we've already learned it is a good structure for two-way communication, and we certainly feel that our perspectives from the community are being heard. Much research has been carried out over the years. I've been an early childhood educator myself for many, many years, as you could probably tell. And even though I'm retired now, I still work tirelessly to move the field of early childhood education ahead. But building a comprehensive early learning and childcare system is not easy. Models have been studied around the world and across Canada, and the best has been drawn from that in the federal plan to have early learning and childcare for every child in Canada. Moving forward with this level of commitment between our federal government and our provincial government, it really will bring to reality an affordable system for parents, as many have already said, so parents can work and go to school and further their lives. It's a critical part of what they need in support in order to do this. But best of all, it will result in regulated childcare for every child that needs it, who needs it. At the moment, there's about 20 to 25% of children who need childcare that can avail of a regulated space. This plan, over time, will make sure there is a space for every child. Accessibility for children is important, and Minister Osborne outlined several ways that expansion will occur: in center-based care, in family child care, and through pre-kindergarten programs. This expansion will ensure that no child is left behind and embrace the principle we've all come to believe in, and that is that every child matters. But you know, it's more than about the money, and it's more than about the spaces. It's about the quality of early learning experiences for the children. This can only occur when qualified early childhood educators whose practice is grounded in child development can plan and lead program experiences in every early learning and childcare site. This is what early childhood education is all about. Many more ECEs are needed to achieve these goals. Appropriate levels of compensation will hopefully be reached as we work on developing a wage grid and benefit plan, but these incentives will help people to choose to come to college to learn early childhood education skills. It will hopefully help to keep ECEs in the sector. Many, many qualified and strong, the best of the best, I call them, have left the sector because there wasn't a living wage. This ability to offer a wage grid and benefit plan will make early childhood education a viable career option that offers a living wage. And there will truly be a career ladder. Just in speaking with Liz Kidd from College of the North Atlantic before we started today, I learned even more ideas of what is planned to help people come to college and learn in a variety of ways. But this career ladder will attract people, the people that we heard from in our recruitment and retention studies that we've just recently completed, who said, I started to work as an early childhood educator, but I was in the room of 3-year-olds and there was no place for me to go after that. There was no future advancement. There weren't opportunities for me. But career laddering allows for that. It brings opportunities for higher educational opportunities, which leads to advancement and to specialization. These are all part of a thriving profession. As Minister Osborne was speaking about, our professional association, the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Newfoundland and Labrador. They are ready to go and expand professional learning opportunities so that ECEs working at any level of their career can find educational opportunities to learn and stay interested in staying in this career choice and make meaningful contributions. Family and childcare connections I know very well and work closely with, and they are prepared to expand across the province. Family childcare has grown tremendously in our province over the last 20 years, and it has a unique ability to have children in small groups, and it can very effectively include children of all ages from birth to 12 years of age. Often families will choose family childcare as a childcare option because they may have an infant and a school-age child, and it works very well in a home setting. They also can involve families from a variety of backgrounds and circumstances. Overall, as a province and as a country, early childhood education, or early learning and childcare, whichever way you want to call it, will benefit the children and families today, will help develop the citizens of tomorrow, and will help build our communities into the future. The initiatives announced today are laying the foundation for this direction. It's really exciting to be part of this very long-awaited agreement and plan. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, MP Thompson, and thank you, Ms. Morris. That ends the formal part of the announcement. Thank you all for being here today. I would now like to ask Tina Coffey, Media Relations Manager, to come forward to moderate questions from the media. Tina.
Thank you, and good afternoon. We will now begin the media availability. I'm with the Department of Education. I will be moderating the question and answer session. For the benefit of our speakers, we have 3 media in person and 3 joining by Zoom. Each reporter will be given the opportunity to ask 2 questions, and we will then follow up with a final question. Reporters in person will begin, followed by those on Zoom. I ask each reporter to direct your question. Our first questions are from Brian Callahan, VOCM. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Question for Minister Osborne. Minister, there's a lot of focus today on early childhood educators. I'm wondering, do you know now what are the numbers of level 3 certification ECEs in the province, and do you have enough to meet the demand that you expect with the pilot program as well as the $10 a day when it kicks in January?
Well, as we move to $10 a day, Brian, demand will increase because it's become, early learning is becoming more and more affordable. We saw an increase when we went to 25. We saw a further increase in demand when we went to 15. We're working with ASINL to look through not only the numbers of level 3 ECEs we currently have working in the sector, but the qualified ECEs, both level 2 and level 3, that have left the sector. We have a database. We are reaching out to those individuals to invite them back and indicate the opportunities that are available. But certainly in areas of the province, we're working with the NLESD and the Francophone districts to make a space available in our primary schools where for nonprofits, the heat and light and snow clearing are considerably less expensive than they would be if they rented a standalone. So those will be a priority location for pre-kindergarten for those reasons and to allow our children to become more familiarized with the kindergarten setting as they're going through pre-K as part of the early learning sector. But anywhere we can't attract a level 3, we will certainly reach out to retired primary and elementary educators with primary experience. Our preference is our level 3 and higher ECEs.
And a follow-up for the Premier. Premier, I'm wondering how high would gas prices or fuel prices in general have to go before the government would intervene? And do you think the public should deserve to know the price of gas before it goes up?
Well, I don't think, first of all, I don't think it's a quite complex question, and I don't think that anyone knows the price of gas at any particular, other than the complexities surrounding the price of gas are largely out of our control, of course. You can blame Mr. Putin for that. But as we've said many times, we don't set the price of gas. The PUB sets the price of gas in the province. But I think, it's important for us to look at this holistically. It's more than just the price of gas, it's the cost of living. And, if we're being honest, that existed before the Ukrainian crisis. And we're looking at it holistically as a government. I've asked Minister Cody to look at different levers and instruments that are available to us to help holistically address the cost of living. The price of gas we have no control of. I mean, we've seen it today with the price yesterday, with the price touching $140 a barrel. We don't set that, of course. That's secondary to the geopolitical tensions around the world. But we are, as a government, looking at parameters that are within our control, instruments that are within our grasp to help address what we know is significant pressure on the cost of living here in the province.
Just those parameters, what you're looking at?
Well, stay tuned. We're evaluating everything right now.
Thank you, Premier. Our next questions are from Bailey Howard with NTV.
Thank you. My question was for Minister Osborne. Minister, I was wondering, I know you touched on the pre-kindergarten program, but most of the questions I've been receiving have been about this program. Could you tell us, a little bit more about this and when people can expect to hear more and it'll begin and those sorts of things?
Certainly. So we're working with the Ministerial Advisory Committee, ASINO, and the ECEHR Council in moving forward with the pre-K program, but the pilot program will be started in September. We anticipate a couple of hundred spaces in September as the pilot program rolls out, and that will give us an opportunity to gauge the program and determine, if we need to make some adjustments or tweaks as we expand the program further next September. The program, I will say, is based on navigating the early years, our early education framework in the province. It will be a consistent program, whether you're in St. John, St. Mary, St. Anthony, or Goose Bay, in terms of curriculum and the play-based focus of that program. So much of the work is already done and laid out. It's now determining the sites and filling those spaces.
Thank you. My second question is for the Premier. Premier, you spoke to reaching this goal almost 2 years early. Can you tell us a bit how you reached that goal in advance, and how important that is?
I think we were very fortunate to be aligned with our federal partners on an important policy instrument. For me, I recognized that this was important, not just incredibly important, obviously, for families within the province, but it was also a key economic driver. Whether it's direct impact in the economy or through immigration, as we were hearing that immigration retention issues around childcare were very important from a retention perspective. So the whole sum of the parts coming together, I think, was that we recognized it was important from a social policy and economic policy perspective, but then happened to be fully aligned with where the federal government were going. So we were ahead of the curve, I guess, in the rest of the provinces and other jurisdictions in getting to $25 a day, and then we were able to accelerate, therefore, in getting to at 15 and then to 10. So ahead of where we wanted to be, and largely because of the alignment that exists with our federal counterparts right now.
Thank you, Premier. Our next questions are from Mark Quinn with CBC.
Yes, my question is for the Premier. The schools that are now owned by the church that will be sold as part of the compensation for victims of abuse. Will the province buy those schools?
Well, first of all, we don't accept the premise of the question just yet. It's under legal review as to who owns the schools, and I'm not going to comment any further on that. It's an issue that is currently being looked at by our Justice Department.
But École Rocher du Nord is owned by the church, is being used by the French school district.
Sorry, I can't hear.
The École Rocher du Nord, the school over by the
Oh, the
St.
French
Clair's.
school district? I'm not, Minister, do you have a comment on that particular? I can't comment specifically.
Because that
Hold on.
school is for sale and it is being used by the French school district.
Sorry, Mark, you're talking about the former Holy Cross building?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Francophone district, we've identified a new school for them, the former school for the deaf. We're in the process of getting that building ready. That building will be up and running. The aim is for September, and my understanding is it will be ready for September. So the Francophone school will be located on Thompson Road.
So there'll be no need to buy that school?
Well, the Francophone school are currently utilizing the school, so they will be moving. As the Premier said, in terms of other schools that may be currently utilized, you know, it's before the courts. What I can say is, first and foremost, our children will have a school to go to. That is our priority.
And my second question is for the Minister Osborne as well. On March 14th, we're going to drop the mask requirement across the province. What will the policy be in schools? Will schools also no longer require masks to be worn?
Well, March 14th is a month away, and then we've got Easter break, so we're looking at the 1st of May. You know, anything can happen between now and the 1st of May, so I won't make a prediction yet on what the 1st of May looks like, but between now and the 1st of May, we'll continue to dialogue with Public Health and the Department of Health, as well as our school districts and stakeholders such as the NLTA, and we'll have a you know, solid policy for May 1st.
Thank you, Minister. I will now pass it over to Mohammed Hussain, who will moderate questions from our reporters joining by Zoom.
Thank you, Tina. We'll now take questions from the media on Zoom. If you are a member of the media joining today, please use the raise your hand function on the right side of your screen to ask a question. We will do one question, one follow-up. Please indicate which media you are with as well as whom your question is addressed. Nous comptons maintenant les questions des médias sur Zoom. Nous êtes journaliste, vous avez une question, vous pouvez utiliser la fonction d'éléments qui n'est pas sur vos questions pour poser votre question. Nous avons une question, une réponse suivie. S'il vous plaît, mentionnez lesquels médias vous êtes, ensuite clarifie votre question d'adresse. First question is from Juanita Mercer. Please go ahead. Juanita.
Thank you. My first question is for Minister Osborne. And I know that the media guidelines said to keep the preamble a bit short, so I do apologize. I do have a bit of a preamble. But your news release says that these initiatives announced today will add about 5,800 childcare spaces in about 3 years' time. I've heard from many desperate families today, mostly women, who have either already delayed a return to work or likely will have to delay a return to work because they can't find any childcare for their one-year-olds. Childcare providers told me this problem has increased to the point of a crisis since government implemented $15 a day care. I heard from 2 separate parents today who said they have written to you, Minister Osborne, with their concerns about not having childcare and therefore unable to return to work. And they both told me they have not yet received a response from you. So I'll ask you the same thing that they were wondering about in their letters. And that is there anything you can do right now immediately to improve this situation so that these families can get the care for their children and return to work this year, not in 3 years' time?
Certainly, and they should have a response by the end of the week, I would suspect. Those responses are sitting on my desk, but we didn't want to announce our announcement in a response prior to today's announcement. I will say that in terms of home-based operations, that is one of the fastest ways we can move forward. You know, this is making early learning more affordable is far easier than making it more accessible. We've gone from 25 to 15, we're going to $10 a day. I can't look at somebody and point my finger and say, you're going to be an ECE tomorrow, come to work. ECEs need to be trained, but we have identified a large roster of former ECEs who are very qualified, who we are saddened to see had left the sector because of low wages, who we hope to attract back to the sector based on increased wages, recognizing the importance of the professional work that these individuals do. We are also working with Family and Childcare Connections to expand the number of home-based operations throughout the province, which can happen more quickly. We are also implementing pre-K, as we had announced today, which should open up some additional spaces. We're looking at a couple of hundred spaces for by September, and that should ease the pressure. There's no quick fix to accessibility, but we did not want to penalize the parents who had early learning spaces by keeping the prices higher in order to avoid creating greater demand. Those individuals deserve to have more cost-effective early learning while we work on the accessibility piece.
Great. And my follow-up question also for you, Minister Osborne. Just two quick questions about the pre-kindergarten pilot program. You mentioned location is something you're looking at, but I guess any idea sort of generally whether it will be located in schools or daycares? And also, you mentioned being willing to hire retired teachers to fill some of those jobs. So do you anticipate any labor shortages as we are currently seeing with ECEs?
Well, labor shortage for ECEs is common across the country, which is part of the reason our federal government stepped up to the plate and signed provincial federal agreements, because this is not a problem just in one province or another. It is clear across the country. So the leadership of our federal government in coming to the provinces and signing these agreements will go a long way to alleviating these concerns. But again, it's not something that is a quick fix overnight, which our stakeholders in the sector understand as well. In terms of the pre-K, we are focusing on spaces that are available in underutilized primary schools because it'll help keep the cost efficient for the operators, who are all going to be non-profit. In terms of whether or not it's going to have an exodus out of with the existing operators, that is something ourselves and our stakeholders had consulted on, had a great deal of discussion on. We are focusing on level 3 ECEs, both current and former ECEs. There is a drive to attract former ECEs, both level 3 and level 2, back to the sector, which will hopefully alleviate some of the pressures on existing and future operators as we move forward. We've also got our academic partners for post-secondary who are providing training options and creative training options, which will also educate more ECEs as we move forward. The sector is starting to recognize through wages and benefits the professional nature of early learning. So hopefully retention and recruitment will no longer be an issue as we move forward.
Thank you. If you are a member of the media joining us today and you have a question, please use the raise hand function on the right side of your screen. Question. At this time, there are no more questions. I will turn it back to Tina in the room.
Thank you, Mohammed. We will now circle back through for a final question. Brian with VOCM, do you have a final question?
Yes, I almost feel like I have to ask a question on Beta Nord, Premier.
Happy to answer a question.
Yeah. Yesterday, Minister Reagan mentioned, he didn't want to really say he supports it. I understand how cabinets work, but there was a time that he would say that. So what do you make of the difference now that is it because the process is in such a state, or?
I can't comment on what the minister said or why he said it, but I will tell you I have had significant conversations with himself, with Minister O'Regan, Minister Hutchings, Minister Wilkinson, and the Prime Minister himself to convey the importance of this project, not just economically speaking for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, but environmentally speaking, geopolitically speaking, for the people of the country and for our NATO allies. This is an incredibly important project, and the merits of it by itself speak environmentally, economically, ethically, and now geopolitically. So I can't speak to exactly what the minister said yesterday, and frankly, but I can tell you that I am confident that he understands, the Prime Minister understands, and other ministers attached to this file understand the significance of this project for the people of our province.
My question is for the Premier. So I know that there's a number of sectors where the government has tried to create programs and fund programs, such as, I'll use the tech sector for example, to fill these positions, but we know that there's a lot of jobs that are not able to be filled. So do you have any concerns about, even though you have these opportunities, not having the people here or bringing the people here to fill some of these 5,800 positions that you're trying to fill?
I mean, there's always concerns with labor issues in our province, and that's why we recognized that day one and created the Department of Immigration and Population Growth. I think we all have to realize the demographic crunch that exists in the province. But there is a bit of a build it and they will come phenomena that has to exist within this particular sector. Before, these opportunities weren't available to the people in the sector, so how could they even avail of them? We are creating not only employment opportunities for people availing of the resource, we're actually creating economic and job growth within the sector itself. So, of course, we're always concerned with the labor issues here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that's why I'm incredibly proud that Minister Byrne is doing a great effort in immigration and population growth.
Thank you, Premier.
Yes, Minister Osborne, I'd like to ask that question again because I was confused by the timelines. I think you said March 14th is a month away, which maybe I misheard. But if I could just ask you again, concerning the policy regarding masks in schools, has the government decided what that will be after the restrictions are lifted?
To be fair to Minister Osborne, there is some echoing here, so it's difficult to hear sometimes.
Yes, I understand. It could have been me.
Yes, sorry. So, I mean, March 14th is when some of the restrictions are lifted. April 14th is Easter. April 14th will bring us to May 1st, which is when schools reopen.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is the question specifically, will masks stay on in schools after March 14th to
Yes.
April 14th?
Yes.
And the answer is yes, right? Yeah.
Okay. And it may change May 1st.
Yes. Well, we'll work with public health as we get closer to May 1st, but between March 14th and April 14th, masks stay on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mohammed, please go ahead with the final round.
For the final round, we have a question from Juanita Mercer of the Telegram. Juanita, over to you.
Thank you. My final question is for the Premier. Premier, you said that you're reducing the parent fees for childcare 2 years ahead of the Canada-wide target. Do you worry at all that you got ahead of yourselves in lowering the cost before ensuring there's adequate spaces to meet the increased demand?
No, I mean, we had to start somewhere, and an announcement today shows the initiative behind increasing the capacity. So in addition to, as Minister Osborne said, it is a balance, of course, of making it more affordable and more accessible. And you need to operate in parallel streams here, and I think that there will be growing pains on either side of this along the way, but Minister Osborne has been creative in trying to come up with solutions in the interim to deal with those, like recruiting former educators or those who have left the system. So, we have to start somewhere, and as I said in my comments, it'd be great if we could make this all happen tomorrow and snap our fingers and it would just be all fixed. But we have to start somewhere. We're starting here, and we're recognizing that we are trying to move in parallel streams, pulling two different levers at the same time, which is increasing affordability while increasing capacity. And I think an announcement like today it gets us closer to where we all want to be.
There are no more questions on the Zoom. Tina, back to you in the room.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our event for today. There will be an opportunity for photos after we all finish. Thank you.